Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Natural Healing Ninjas with Christine and Laura Lee
Hi, everybody.
behind the camera. Today we're interviewing this beautiful healing facilitator, and she's going to explain what she does, where she came from, how she got here, and you do healing facilitation all the time at home and you do seminars. It's amazing what she does. She's a firecracker, I tell you that much. And she wrote 2 books. This one is the one that she wanted to display today. And the other one is
On its way.
On its way. This
yes.
is Lori Gardner. Thank you for coming, Lori.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Yeah, so the first book is The Road to Shine, all about not settling for less, living your fullest life, and why do we hold ourselves back. The second one that's coming is called The Road to Joy, how to be happy when life is crappy by trusting your deepest knowing, and that's the self-healing piece we'll be talking about today. This one is available on Amazon, probably like $3 at this point, and the new one is coming soon, and they were both written while fasting in the desert on vision quests.
Wow.
I tend to write my books I go out, no drugs, just water. I fast on tall mesas up in the New Mexico desert, and the books come out in about 4 days in my diary.
Amazing,
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah,
So tell us where you came from.
where did I come from?
I mean, how
Good
did you
question.
get into this way of healing others, of helping others heal?
Yeah, so I came from the East Coast where more traditional family. My dad's a brain surgeon. My mother's a nurse. They
Wow.
thought chiropractors were quacks. They had no idea about any kind of alternative or self-healing. So not necessarily against it, but just really didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
And for me, when I moved out to California 25 years ago, I was like, what? Came to candy store. I was like, what the? And just reawakened to myself. It was not my first lifetime as a healer. I've
Yeah.
come back here again and again and again as a healer. And as a teacher. And so what I've been spending most of my time on since waking up to that, I was originally in school reform and trying to heal our educational system, our public educational system. I did that for 2 decades.
Wow.
And then, a lot of healing to be done in there, the children, the youth, and the teachers. And, when I was so burned out from doing that and ran off to the desert the first time, I was like, I just got to get away, no tech, leave me alone.
Yes.
As Laura Lee said earlier today, we want a peaceful life, those of us who are into healing. And the first book came out, I was like, oh my God, I see what I'm stepping into. My education path is now transferring to the healer educator and how people can listen to their deepest knowing to self-heal. And so that path I've been on for 35 years.
35 years.
know.
And you just
I'm
moved
younger
here.
than I'm older than I
You are. She's amazing, isn't she? She's got so much energy. And you came here to Cambria what was the reason that you came here for?
Well, I've been to Cambria many times.
Yes.
Loved it. The energy of the place is palpable if you're paying attention, if you're not asleep. But I was happily living in Berkeley for a long time. And then during the pandemic, let's just say it didn't bring out many people's best selves at that time, including my building neighbors. And the universe was just letting me know it was time to move. And so a lot of things conspired that it was no longer loving and safe and peaceful to be in my own home. And as you can see from our beautiful space I'm renting now, my home is very important to me, the energy that I create and that I surround myself with. Mm-hmm. And so I had some friends here that let me stay in their room for $50 a night, during the pandemic. And I just was like, great. And I was finishing The Road to Joy. So my office was a bikini, a baseball cap, and a beach chair. And I just went from the Cove to Morro Bay to Cayucas, like every little place, finishing the book and writing it up. And I thought, oh my God, I'm like vibrating with the energy here.
Wow.
And the books are very personal. They're my journey stories, but I specifically channel and write what everyone's going through. Because I already know my story.
Yes.
So it's, we've all had broken hearts. We've all struggled with health and what are our choices.
Mm-hmm.
We've all had people who betrayed us. Exactly. We've all had these experiences. So those are the ones that I choose to write about. And I am from New Jersey originally, in the woods. So it's Jersey Girl Does Woo Woo. Very plain English, practical language. I teach.
And tell us about that. Do you do seminars in your home here, or do you?
Oh, everywhere. So I like teams. I call it the leading lights. And I like bringing together other light workers, other sparks, other spirits who are trying to help.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
And so for me, I thought, okay, it's not the Lori Gardner show. We need to bring in other people. And so I've spent the last 7 years, I started a nonprofit called Shine Your Light, and I teach people how to access their inner knowing. And it's literally, I don't have any graphics or anything, but I'll draw it. So it's like an inverted triangle. So layer 1 to self-healing, or healing in general, actually. If you're healing somebody else or yourself, right? Layer 1, calm the noise. You've got to quiet your mind, you've got to quiet your heart, you've got to quiet your body in order to access your intuition. And many people stop there. Let's just do a yoga class. Let's just go to sound healing. That's nice, but that's not permanent.
Is that like meditation, are you saying?
I make a bunch of tools up that are quick, 30 seconds to a minute, because not everybody has half an hour, 50 years to be on a meditation cushion, or 12 years to talk to a therapist. So these are tools that cut right to the core and shift. And so the calm the noise is layer 1. You've got to merge with highest self. You've got to be hearing the true voice from within, not your analysis paralysis, not your reactive emotions, not your body that's tired or stressed. But that's layer 1, calm the noise. Then, layer 2, you got to get to the root. Look under the hood. What's really going on?
Yes.
Why am I stressed out in the first place? Or in fear? Or getting sucked into the swarm of cray-cray around us right now? Or upset with my family? Or worried about money?
That's the core issue. What's the core issue?
Get to the root.
Yeah.
What's really going on? What's the core issue? It's like in a sink, a kitchen sink that's blocked, right? You can fish out, the floating carrot and the floating piece of lettuce, or you can roll up your sleeve and grab the clog that's under it.
It's usually hairy, right?
It's gross. But then you feel so great when you get it in the water.
Yeah,
Just immediately, and all the water goes, you're like, hey.
Yeah.
And that's just the second layer. Because, again, I'm practical. Jersey Girl does woo-woo. I don't want to just have this huge realization of like, oh my gosh, I'm in desperation energy. Well, what are you going to do with that? So layer 3 is act on the aha. Practical next steps to apply what you just uncovered. So it could be an internal attitude adjustment. It could be an external step to take. But again, if I were to do it visually, it's like cut to the root and shift it. Cut to the root and shift it. Cut to the root and shift it.
Wow.
And we do this in coaching sessions in an hour, half an hour. In my classes, I teach master classes, Trust Your Gut master
So
classes.
in your coaching sessions, is this what you do? Like, for instance, you said you had a call today. Was that like a therapy call, or
so different than therapy?
So it's a directional call?
It's an intuitive, I call it intuitive personal growth coaching or intuitive leadership coaching if you're a leader of a community, of a family, of an organization, or for yourself. So it's this process that I'm describing. I'm helping you to access what you deeply already know for whatever purpose it is. Let's say you called and you wanted, or you came in person, or you wanted Zoom. We do whatever people want. And you said, I really want to work on my life. I'm feeling whatever I'm feeling, scared, stuck, alone. Okay. So then you're going to go through that process of first I'm going to help you calm the noise. I'm scared, or I'm depressed, and then we're going to okay, what's really going on? And then as I guide you, and I've now trained 20 coaches and certified them in, we're calling it something I didn't have a name for. We're calling it the Lori Gardner's breakthrough method. Because
Did you put that in the book?
I'll put it in the new one. Yeah, Lori Gardner's breakthrough method. I have to name it. I have to name it after me because I created it. I guess. So anyway, yeah. And so that's what would happen is you would receive a coach and they would walk you through very personally, but they're guiding you. So it's a combination of helping you to access what you already know. We're using these tools. And so, for example, let's give you an example of some tools to help you. This is the personal growth side, not the leadership side. So let's say calm the noise. Someone is like an overburdened. I was working with a single mom. She's got to deal with her everything and going on and on. Like, oh gosh, no self-care. That's at the bottom. It's like, what do I do? So one of the tools might be ditch the cement jacket. And so I have you close your eyes and first feel all the people and responsibilities and whatever burdens you're carrying around. And then you just visualize unzipping the front of that jacket, opening your arms out wide to the side. Let all of that slide to the ground as you step forward, the cement jacket just instantly incinerates behind you as you fly up into the ground and watch it explode. And in that 30 seconds that I even just said it, people can feel that shifting.
So you're doing actually a vision.
Sometimes I'm doing a visualization tool.
Visualization tool, yes.
Other times I'm asking questions. So let's say now we're in layer 2, get to the root.
Yeah.
I might be, there's a tool that I call what's the real problem? And so you say, well, let's say it was my neighbors who were bullying me in Berkeley, like I was talking about. Like, well, I have these terrible neighbors, and most people start to blame, as the other person. It's not my
It's
stuff.
all outside of
yours.
themselves.
Excuse me, I'm not allowed to say shit. It's not my stuff, it's yours.
It's all your stuff.
It's not my problem, yeah. Like, well, these terrible people, and they're so horrible, and they're picking on me, and they took over the garden, and I'm like, okay, so what's the real problem? Well, the problem is that, like, I can't even be in the garden, and that was my favorite space, and now these terrible people. I'm like, okay, so what's the real problem with not being able to be in your favorite space? Well, that's the only place that I really felt safe and at home and centered. What's the problem with not feeling safe and at home and centered? And you see, so in that case, it's not a visualization. I keep driving them down until we get to the what's really going on. And then in that case, for me, I wasn't claiming my space. I was letting other people rail all over me, and not just the garden. That was a metaphor of like, oh boy, I wasn't speaking my voice, I wasn't meeting my needs, I wasn't writing deep stuff.
You have to go really far into it, and you have to be willing to do it. I mean,
but it's joyful.
And it's some people call it shadow work because you're going
It can
deep
be.
into the rabbit hole of the shadow.
It can be.
Of a shadow of yourself, like,
Yeah.
oh, I don't do those things. And of course you do, because that's why you're manifesting, that's why you're pulling it to you.
Right.
So all of a sudden it's there and you're creating it.
And it's joyful to heal. If you're doing shadow work, it's not always shadow work. It might be a joyful part of you that needs to expand.
Mm-hmm.
I've always loved painting. Oh, okay, let's really talk about how we can get you to do more of what you love.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do more of that creative side of you. And then
Right.
it might be more of a strengthening and building. Other times it's the deep shadow. But you're getting to the core of what's preventing them from living in joy. Because the fastest way to find joy, and this is what came out on the second book.
The second book?
For the second book, is the fastest way to joy is by listening to your deepest knowing. It's through your intuition.
Absolutely, yes.
Because your deepest knowing is loving, it's clear,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't need to repeat itself or blame anyone. It's just like your no-duh voice, like, oh yeah, no duh, we got it.
And that's your soul actually projecting
100%.
into your physical
100%.
being. And that's what you have to
100%.
dive into to your soul. Go, okay, well, what is it that the soul wants?
Yeah.
The soul is guiding me here.
Yeah.
Then listen.
Yeah, and it's almost like, it's sort of like taking the mud off the windshield.
Yeah.
It's not even like, oh God, is it in there? It's like, oh, you are the soul, you are the spirit that's driving the vehicle. Just go, wicket, 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 and get the mud off. And then you're like, oh, wow, I can see clearly now, right? You're like, oh God, right?
Yeah.
And so it's this very joyful process. And so, yeah, depending which tool you're using, and what it might be shadow work, it might be an expansion, it might be a visualization. I've developed dozens of tools. I wrote them all in the second book so that people can use them.
Right.
People want me to do audios. I teach classes, master classes.
Yes.
I do the coaching one-on-one.
And the
then-
master classes, are they at a venue, or do you come to?
so I tend to do those on Zoom.
Oh, do you?
Because people are from all over the world.
Ah.
And, mixed feelings about Zoom, but I connect really well with people on Zoom, and they're intimate. I have small classes. These are not, I can do big workshops also,
Yeah.
but, this is confidential. People are bearing their souls, and the cohorts that come together, they're like long-lost soulmates.
Oh.
Like every time for each trust your gut, and then you just laugh when you figure out. You're like, oh, I see why you spirits came together. And I have a level 1 and a level 2 and a level 3, and they tend to travel in little soul clusters together.
Yeah.
And then some go on to then become certified. Yeah, so I just don't get in the way. I don't mess. I just show up and I offer. So the Trust Your Gut Master classes are super powerful.
Wow.
The one-on-one coaching, the books.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
And so go ahead.
So trusting your gut, a lot of people don't know exactly what that means. They know trust their gut, but intuition, what exactly is
Yeah.
that?
And so the way that I answer, it's a great question. What is
Can you
intuition?
repeat the question?
Yeah, what is intuition? Yeah.
What is trusting your gut?
And what is trusting your gut? What is intuition? It's all the same thing. And so it's how do you access the voice that knows?
Mm-hmm.
You can call it your intuition, your gut, your secret Scooby sense. I don't care what you call it, right? It's that voice that knows. And the way I answer that question is by what your gut or intuition is not, right? And so your gut instinct, intuition, secret Scooby sense, again, same, all different terms. It is not that intellectual slicing and dicing, need to figure it out and parse it down into, it's not the thought process. It's not your intellectualization of things. Nor people will say often like, oh, what does your heart say? Well, that's different than your gut. Because I can feel this way about a guy, and that way about a guy, or this way about a job, and that way about that. Your emotions swing all over, like monkey mind, they call it in Buddhism, right? So it's not your emotions either. Those are too reactive. It's not your body, right? Because your body might be like, I'm too tired to even think about it, or like, I'm stressed. Underneath all three of those voices is your intuition. And, I love this beautiful metaphor that I once learned, which is, think of it as like you're a carriage. You're driving a carriage with three horses. You have the intellectual horse, you have the emotional horse, and you have the body, the physical horse. But it's your spirit, as you're saying, your soul that's holding the reins. And it's not that you take input from all three, right? Of course you listen to, well, how does my body feel about this today? I do a little exercise, like how do I feel emotionally today, intellectually, whatever. But it's the soul, the spirit, that needs to make the calls. Because if you let your intellectual horse be in charge, it might just like run you around in circles, analysis paralysis. The cart is just going, just going around and around. It's the emotional horse, might be like, oh, I'm upset, and then you're like ass over tea kettle.
Yeah.
If it's the body horse, might be like, I'm hungry, like goes right to the barn, or I'm lying down, I'm tired. So you take input from the holistic parts of you, but it's really your deepest self that knows. And again, how do you know that voice versus the others, right? That's a question I get.
That's a good question.
It's a real question. It's because that voice is clear. It's calm. It never blames anyone else or yourself. Doesn't need to repeat itself. It's just that voice that is like, oh yeah, I already know. And we've all had those moments of knowing. Like moments, like I should leave, this marriage has got to stop, or I need to move now from this place to that place, or this is not the job for me, or the home for me. We have moments, and so what I'm teaching people with my coaching and classes and books is, how do you access that on demand? We need to access that deep knowing right now. Cut to the chase, shift it. Cut to the chase, shift it. In real life language, because I get a lot of people that already understand concepts like inner wisdom and inner light, and I get those that are like, woo-woo, frou-frou, what? And so I think probably because I come from the East Coast, raised by a brain surgeon, but yet I've been a healer in so many lifetimes and lived in California for most of my adult life. I'm that bridge, and that's what I love doing, is let's put that in language that are concepts anyone can relate to.
Exactly, and that's what I'm hearing from you.
Yeah.
How would you explain regret and how to move through regret? How would you do that?
Regret and how to move through regret. Yeah, shame and regret are powerful. You said we're going right to the shadow side with you.
I know.
So regret is usually more of a case as you shift it, right? There's a lot of self-forgiveness involved.
That's right.
In choice making, and there's a lot of remembering the bigger lessons, right? Because we went through and we choose, even what we beat ourselves up for, sometimes later as being the wrong choices, for a very important universal lesson that was just perfect every time.
And you have to look at the broader picture.
Up there.
Instead, because you go back and you go, oh, that's why I did this.
Exactly.
Let's do that. Let's do that again. It's hard, but let's do that again.
Yeah.
But I think as humans, that's why we came here, because we're going, why did I come
Classroom
here?
Earth, baby.
And then, oh, that's why.
Welcome to
Okay,
Classroom
that's
Earth.
why I came here. And that's what the natural healing ninjas are about. That's why we came here. I think Laura Lee and I want to share that with the world, with people like you, that know they can find another way
We are our
for
own
healing.
best healers.
Exactly.
And by finding kindred spirits and other leading
Yes.
lights.
Yes.
And it doesn't, it doesn't have to be scary or painful. I think some people are like, oh my God, it's going to be dark and painful. I'm like, well, if we have to dive and get to the yuck in the sink, guess what? You're like, whoop, whoop, down it goes quickly. You're like, hee hee, you wash your hands, and all of a sudden you have a clear sink, and you feel much better. So
Exactly, yeah.
is it always fun in the sense of like joyful? No, but I'll tell you, humor is a high vibration. And that's a lot of what I do in my coaching classes.
You do. I noticed that.
It's just the goofy, the laugh, because you're doing the work, but you realize that, right, we came here
But see, you raise,
for joy.
by the time you get done with your class, you raised everybody's
yeah.
vibration and go, I can do that. I can do that.
Yeah.
I can do that.
And we remember our shared things, like the regret, the shame. And so, you know, let's say a student will be saying like, oh, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, you're clearly the only perfectionist in this class, and everyone will laugh. Or you're the only one with mother issues, or, you know, daddy issues, and everyone, haha. Because you're like, right, it's funny, but also you're
Right.
like, okay, this is the human experience, as you said. This is classroom.
Do you ever get to, asking for a friend, get to family issues and things like that, or do you just...
All the time, are you kidding?
Really?
Oh,
And you
yeah.
bring it down to you instead of the family, but the family does affect you.
Of course.
Yes.
Family were your first teachers.
Yes,
Family were
exactly
your first
right.
teachers. And so, yeah, so one of the tools that we work with are family patterns.
Aha.
The ones that we've learned, both the healthy ones, because we've also learned some good things, hopefully, but also the unhealthy ones.
Right.
And so we talk about breaking family patterns, how to recognize. So I'll do it briefly. I'll do the whole lesson. I'll do it briefly. Okay. You know you have a family pattern that
Yes.
needs to shift.
Mm-hmm.
If A, you're like, I am never going to be like that. Let's say your family's very judgmental. Like, oh, I am never. You're like, oh, not me, right? Like
Yes,
he
yes,
does
yes.
protest too much, right? Like I am never. You really, or you work really hard. Like I don't want to be a judgy person, but it's really an important thing for you. You tend to, so you live your life not being that way. You tend to attract very, in this case, judgy people into you,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Or both. You're like trying, or you become judgy yourself. You know, so you're like, oh my gosh, I am really judgy. No, I'm never going to be judgy. Or I attract people in who are mirroring that for me, or all three. And then you go, oh my God, this is like a thing for me. Because for someone else, they're like, yeah, judgy, schmudgy, whatever. But for me, I'd be like, oh God, I don't want to be judgmental. That, I'm like, bing, bing, that's a family pattern.
Oh, I see.
That's something
And
that
that's how you see. And how do you...
Or a shadow side trait,
How do you
perhaps.
bring them through that? That's the hard part. I mean, not hard, but that's the part for them to get that
Periscope.
gooey stuff out and move it.
All right, so we'll do a little mini lesson on that right now.
Okay, let's do it.
We're doing the session. Okay, so this is where some of the things that you don't like, let's say, keep working with judgment, okay? Because
Okay.
many people feel,
Judged.
yes.